Equal Love is the name of the campaign to overturn the current ban on gay marriage and heterosexual civil partnerships. Organised by Outrage, the idea is that 8 couples will file applications at register offices for ceremonies they're not allowed to hold. The first to do so are lesbian partners, the Reverend Sharon Ferguson and her partner Franca, who will apply for a civil marriage licence today. Well, Professor Robert Wintemute is Professor of Human Rights Law at King's College London. Good morning to you. Kathy Gingell is a Research Fellow at the Centre for Policy Studies. Robert, what are the aims of your campaign?
Well, as you said, to secure equal access to marriage for same-sex couples and to civil partnership for different-sex couples who are currently excluded.
Why the two separate, different systems now?
Well, in 2003, the government had a choice. They could have opened up marriage to same-sex couples and never created civil partnership. But at the time, there were only 3 examples in the world, the Netherlands, Belgium, and parts of Canada, and that was not enough at the time. So the government went down the road of separate but equal, recognizing same-sex couples, giving them rights, but under a separate name and in a new institution.
And you don't believe that this system should be allowed to carry on operating?
No, because separate is not equal, and the lesbian and gay people in the UK will only finally achieve 100% legal equality when they have the right to marry.
Kathy, just tell us then about your views on the purpose of marriage.
Well, I just don't think that this is being presented as an equal rights issue, that it's invidious to deny gay people who wish to have loving and permanent relationships the rights that married people have. But actually, marriage isn't about rights, and this is the fundamental error. It betrays a sort of lack of understanding of marriage. Marriage is a sort of unique institution which actually confers responsibilities on people and the state gives them certain benefits because it's the only sexual relationship in which the state has an interest with respect to children. So on one level, it is fundamentally about children's needs, not about adult rights.
Right, let me just take Robert up on that then. It's not about rights. What do you say?
Well, it is because UK law does not require a heterosexual couple to have any capacity to have children or any desire to have children in order to have access to marriage, and the European Court of Human Rights has confirmed that.
What about the campaign for what Robert believes is equality, Kathy?
Well, I think it's a demand for identicality, and I think
identicality. What do you mean?
Identicality. I think it's a further. Well, I think it is an assault on an institution which isn't a question of rights. That institution isn't about rights. It's about the foundation of family life in which children are to be born and nurtured. So it's both a question of belief, of Christian belief and Christian ethics. It's about upholding an objective morality, and it's very specific. So it's not about rights. So I'd go back to that. And it's also, it's in a way replacing that objective morality with a sort of personal and subjective desires. And I think part of my problem is the whole rights agenda, which somehow dismisses other values in society or replaces those sort of values, which are values that we need to hold.
OK, I mean, Robert, you're looking confused. Do you feel confused?
Yes. Well, first of all, the reference to Christian beliefs. We're talking about legal marriage, which takes 2 forms in the UK, a civil marriage performed by a public official and religious marriage performed with legal authority. So the campaign seeks access to both forms of marriage, so to a registry office marriage, but also to a religious marriage in those religious institutions that are willing to marry same-sex couples. It would only be a few at the moment. It would certainly not include the Church of England or the Roman Catholic Church. But equality means access to all of the same opportunities.
Go on, sorry.
Yes, I just think it's treating marriage as a club from which some people are barred from entry. Marriage just simply isn't a club.
Well, it's more important than that, you mean?
It's not just that it's more important. It's not a membership issue. A lot of people in that sense wouldn't have membership to it. Single people don't. There are lots of single people who'd love to be married and they don't find somebody to marry. 2 sisters can't be married. A father and a child can't be married. It is not a club to which people are barred entry. It is certainly a status, and I think the demand for identicality is demanding society sort of do an emperor's new clothes thing and say a homosexual relationship is the same as a heterosexual one, and it isn't.
OK, as I said at the very beginning, there are 2 sides to the campaign, and heterosexual couples are trying to get to civil partnership rather than marriage. In fact, next Tuesday, a heterosexual couple, Katherine and Tom, who are both 26, will try to register for a civil partnership. Now, I talked to Katherine earlier.
Tom and I have been together for about 5 years. We met at university up in Durham, both moved down to London together, and we've been together since.
Why not get married?
For us, we were discussing this last year. We both felt strongly that getting married would be condoning the exclusion of gay couples from marriage, and we felt we didn't feel comfortable with that. The marriage system in the UK, it excludes gay people from marriage and straight couples from civil partnership, and we just weren't happy with that segregation. It struck us as a segregation, and we didn't want to live with that.
Is there anything else about the idea of marriage that you don't like?
Oh yeah, I mean, once we sort of reached that decision, we started looking a bit more critically at marriage, and we realised that we just didn't feel comfortable with the idea of being husband and wife.
Well, the implications of that being...
I think Tom and I, we feel like equal partners, and husband and wife, they're two separate stereotypes, there's two separate roles, and we don't like the way that divides. I think for me it implies a system of the woman is there as a subsidiary to the man and is there as a support for him, and that doesn't strike me as very equal. I mean, I know most couples who are married don't operate in that way. For me, it's the terminology is bad enough, and as there is an option in civil partnership, why couldn't we have that option?
And what does civil partnership offer you then as a couple?
It seems to us more equal. We would be civil partners to each other rather than husband and wife. And by having a civil partnership, we would be opening it up to straight couples, and that would be making the marriage system in the UK more equal. And I think the equality is the most important to us.
That's Katherine, who is one half of a heterosexual partnership who are seeking a civil partnership. Currently legal, Robert, in some countries. I think South Africa and Holland, you can do that, can't you?
Civil partnership for different sex couples.
Yeah.
Yes, it exists in the Netherlands, South Africa, Quebec, and actually New Zealand.
And is it popular?
Well, I've checked the figures in the Netherlands for 2009, and 89% of different sex couples choose marriage, 11% registered partnership, as it's known now.
So not actually that popular then.
But the benefit is that there are 11% in a solid legal relationship that might not be there if their only choice for marriage.
So as best you understand it, what are the objections to allowing a civil partnership for heterosexual couples in this country?
Well, I would say it would be a fear that it would be the end of marriage, that somehow 90% of all different sex couples would desert marriage and stampede over to civil partnership. And the evidence from the Netherlands, where different sex couples have had this choice for 12 years, is that's not the case.
Kathy, any thoughts on this
I'm
idea?
just completely confused by it, and I find it's a bit of a concocted case in a way. I mean, if you look, which I did before I came on at the programme, at the difference between a civil partnership arrangement and a registry office marriage, there's really no difference. In fact, the registry office marriage, apart from the word marriage, is the same as a civil partnership. The only difference is that it's slightly more public, but there's no wording in that apart from the carrying over of the word marriage. There's nothing that could indicate any what did you say? It was a patriarchal issue?
Well, I mean,
or subservience of the woman to the man? I think this is sort of concocted and a bit potty.
Clearly, Katherine didn't believe that and felt that if she were to take part in a so-called traditional marriage ceremony, she'd be
but it's
somehow...
Not in a registry office, it's hardly a traditional marriage ceremony.
Well, I think I was going to go on to say that she felt the whole point of old-fashioned marriage was that if you did it, you were part of a kind of conspiracy against people who weren't able to go through it themselves.
I think it's sort of quite paranoid. I mean, I can sort of see her point. I just think in the order of sort of human injustice, I wouldn't put this as a very high one on the list. I mean, it's much more marginal to me than the other case, but I think it does create all sorts of issues as to who is to have the rights for these type of relationships once we go down the rights line.
But if you listen to Robert's statistics, then in fact many heterosexual couples, when they have the choice, still go for marriage.
Yeah, no, that's not the point. The point is that me as a widow and being particularly close to my sister, could I demand the right to have a civil partnership with my sister? I certainly can't yet marry her in a registry office, but I would have a devoted and loving relationship with her, which might be the most important relation to me for the rest of my life. Now, actually, I don't think I have a right to demand that from the state. So I think we're going over the top on this rights culture.
Robert, what are the chances of success for either cause?
I would expect the legislation to be changed within 3 years. We're talking about an inevitable change. This is like votes for women. Civil partnership is really just a transitional phase. If you'll recall, in 1918, women were given the right to vote at the age of 30, compared with 21 for men. That was only equalized in 1928. So to me, there's no doubt that within the next 3 years, same-sex couples will be allowed to marry in the UK. But what about civil partnership? Well, the government went to huge expense creating a separate institution, changing laws, changing forms, etc. Why tear it down? Why not allow different sex couples to enjoy it as well and expand choice for all couples?
Thank you very much. The thoughts of Robert and Kathy. Thank you both for coming in this morning.